Hello, my name is Scott Reveal, and this is my presentation for weight loss and supplementation. Starting off here, for many people, weight loss is not just to lose fat or to see numbers fall off on a scale. However, it is to preserve and increase lean muscle, improve body composition. These people want to feel better, be healthier, look better. It's more than just the fat loss. In addition to caloric intake and exercise, which are extremely important and definitely the majority, there are supplements that have been proven to help improve these body composition outcomes. So we will be going through three different studies of supplements that we can use to help improve our body composition and in improve fat loss. Evidence for protein supplementation helps support muscle protein synthesis when combined with training. We will be going through both resistance and endurance training for this study. The next supplement we'll be going over is creatine, which tends to maintain or increase fat-free mass and a small reduction in body fat percentage when paired with resistance training. And finally, for our third study, we will be going through caffeine supplementation reductions and weight, BMI, and body fat mass. For our first study here, we will be going through the effects of protein supplementation on performance and recovery in resistance and endurance training. The objective of this study was to evaluate whether consuming protein around exercise pre or post workout enhances performance and recovery during both resistance or strength training and resistance training. The methods for this procedure was a narrative review of existing literature. The authors synthesized evidence from acute and long-term studies that compared protein supplementation versus a control or other nutrient strategies, and individuals that are performing consistent, resistant, or endurance exercise. The considered variables for this study included nutrient timing, peri-exercise intake, total daily protein and energy intake, training type, which is resistance versus endurance, training status, which was novice versus trained, and recovery and performance outcomes. The key findings for this study was consuming protein around pre, but also especially post-exercise, reliably elevated muscle protein synthesis. When the caloric pro, uh, daily caloric needs and protein needs are met, peri-exercise protein intake appears to help optimize performance and improve recovery in both resistance and endurance contexts. However, they do slightly different things. For resistance training, protein supplement supports lean mass or fat-free mass gains with help of recovery following these intense workout. For endurance athletes, it is immediate performances are modest. However, the protein intake contributed to reduced muscle damage, improved nitrogen balance, and a faster recovery, especially when we combined with their carbohydrate intake. So for this, protein supplementation, especially when timed around exercise, can be practical and effective nutritional strategy to help support muscle maintenance growth, improve recovery, and enhance training adaptations. When going over to the next study, which is our creatine supplementation, we will be discussing resistance exercise and creatine supplementation on fat mass in adults younger than 50 years of age. The objective of the study was to evaluate whether combining exercise with creatine supplementation impacts body fat, absolute body fat, and body fat percentage in adults under 50. The methods for this study was a systematic review and a meta-analysis of 12 different studies. We actually had a total of 266 participants comparing in resistance training and creatine uh, versus uh, resistance training with a placebo. Um, the findings for this were small but statistically significant. We saw a reduction in body fat percentage in the creatine and resistance training group. It was negative 1.19% body fat with a value of 0.006 for statistical significance. However, the change in the absolute fast was not found statistically significant. We had negative 0.18 kilograms, sorry, and a value of 0.76 for statistical significant variable. So there was no clear loss of total fat tissue. So for an interpretation of this, for young and middle-aged adults engaging in resistance training, adding creatine appears to moderately shift body fat composition from body fat percentage to a relative lean mass. Since we're not seeing a lot of total fat loss, but these participants are staying around the same weight. So they're losing um, fat and turning it into lean muscle. Moving over to our third and final study, caffeine supplementation. This study is the effects on caffeine intake on weight loss, systematic review, and meta-analysis. The objective of this study was to assess whether caffeine intake is associated with reductions in body weight, BMI, and fat mass across randomized controlled trials. The methods for this was a meta-analysis of multiple human trials comparing caffeine. These were all orally taken in via coffee, supplements such as pre-workouts and etc. Um, and then we are comparing this against a control or a placebo, and then we will be quantifying the changes in weight, BMI, and fat mass across time, across a range of doses and settings. The key findings showed that the pooled data suggests that caffeine intake was associated with modest but significant, statistically significant reductions in weight, BMI, and body fat mass. So moving over to the numbers on the side of thing, the biggest thing that we want to look at is this second group of the dose response translation and interpretation when we are doubling the caffeine intake, showing that when we doubled the caffeine intake, it was associated with a average of 22% greater reduction in body weight, 17% greater reduction in BMI, and a 28% greater reduction in fat mass. So the absolute changes tend to be small because the average weight loss observed was less than 2 kilograms over a 4-week intervention compared against the control groups. However, if we expand this over time, we can only see that this increases. So moving over to applying these studies into a real world practice, this could help us create a practical routine for adults aiming to improve performance and body composition. So when it comes to these adults pre-workout, um, keeping them at 30 to 60 minutes prior to the workout, consuming 100 to 300 milligrams of caffeine. Um, this will help increase fat oxidation and improve training intensity. We can talk about the participants' preferred form of caffeine for this. Um, After resistance training sessions, consuming 20 to 40 grams of protein. Um, then we're going to move into our daily goals of our total protein intake, keeping it at 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilogram of body weight, while also daily having 3 to 5 grams of creatine. And finally, we're talking about the exercise approach for the performance and resistance training. We're going to keep this at 3 to 4 times a week with moderately intense cardio, which will be enhanced by the caffeine. What we can expect from following this application is a increased fat oxidation from the caffeine. We will see a lean mass preservation or an increase of lean mass from the protein and the creatine. And we will also see small but meaningful improvements in body fat percentage, which we will see from the creatine and the training. In conclusion, caffeine, protein, and creatine can create a complementary strategy to help optimize fat loss, enhance performance, and maintain muscle during these weight loss programs. Thank you very much for listening and have a great day.